All right. I should be heard. Things should be good. We are recording. We are still only 16 minutes late to having a fully operational stream. Hey, it happens. Apologies that you could only hear one side of the conversation. Mike, thankfully, was the important part of that conversation. Uh,
It is working, I confirmed.
yes, it is all working now. I have remembered how to stream, and I have remembered to check my settings. Of course, today was the day I didn't get home from work till like 4:50, so I wasn't able to set everything up as quickly as I had hoped. So my apologies on the delay of the stream. Okay, Andor episode 5. Good, slow, need be slow, not all big boom. More or less, all I'm trying to get across is this is a show about spies and espionage and a rebellion building to take down an empire. It is not going to be Casino Royale every other episode. There's going to be planning, there's going to be plotting, there's going to be skulking from the shadows. That's not this show. This show is not the Clone Wars. It's not the height of aggression. It is subtle. And I am okay with that. And I am loving it.
And on the bright side too, without all that action, we see a lot of world building stuff that we never really
Yes.
got to see before. So
And that's one of the things
we
you
get
had
to
said
see
is that you love world building.
Love it.
we get to see high
It's
life
nice
of
slice of life
Coruscant.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We get which we don't really get to see. We get to see some low life on a different planet.
Yeah, and Mon Mothma stuff has really set forward a lot of the stuff with the higher ups of the Coruscanti and other worlds.
Yeah, we don't typically see that with Coruscant. 'Cause typically, see Coruscant, we see like the Senate, we see Jedi Temple,
And that's it.
we see it's the majority in some of the high life that's like very vague with Anakin, but
Yeah. And I saw a lot of
not
people
much
too
outside of that.
complaining about like, well, what is there an expressway? When you at the very end, like, hey, driver, take us to the expressway. And I was like, well, it makes sense. Corporations, private citizens, and a lot of other people are going to pay to not let things fly around their buildings so that their window views aren't obscured by vehicles. They're also, I mean, you have to have some order even with flying vehicles, or they will just
Especially
crash
with
into
flying
each other
vehicles.
going around a corner.
Especially with
Even
flying.
with planes,
Mhm.
there's certain flight plans and there's ways you have to go based on certain airspace, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when you add tons more air traffic, there's going to have to be some kind of lanes of traffic, just
Mhm.
like on the road. May not be as restrictive, and you can see that when there's several, almost like a tube,
Yeah.
because they can only fly so high and so far from buildings. Um,
And
the
I
other
mean,
thing
if I were a rich person in Coruscant, I wouldn't want to have speeders going by my balcony.
the only thing that I think is that doesn't make full sense is having a driver instead of it being a droid or automated.
Yeah. That's probably just
No,
a
that
show
makes
of
complete
money.
sense. That makes complete sense because this is just after the war with the droids.
I guess,
there's
yeah.
probably a heavy distrust of droids.
Which is weird because it's like it's not that the droids are trusted or untrusted. It's
But
just that
it's
the
right after
programming.
this.
But no, a lot of people hate droids. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole reason Din hates droids
Exactly.
is because of the separatist war droids.
Also, it could be a status thing. I have enough money to pay a human.
Yeah, I have to literally put someone on salary. I have the money to afford a living creature. Because yeah, well, because Mon Mothma is a great senator and rebellion leader, but obviously
she's in it for the money.
She's not Mon Mothma.
No, with her husband.
Okay, I was like, what?
Sorry, I was making a connection before the connection was made.
I wasn't making that connection.
Okay,
she has money on her own, right? And you see her, and it mentions she's channeling funds to a couple of her programs that she's basically using as a front to pay the rebellion.
But it's either her husband and daughter are just so elitist that they're stuck in that world and they'll never leave it, and that's why they're kind of dickheads. Or the part of it could be the fact that she wasn't, as a senator and the leader of the rebellion. I can also tell you, Mon Mothma hasn't been around a lot, probably.
I think she hasn't paid attention to either of them. I think that's why the husband, he's basically trying to get her attention by starting dinners with other diplomats. He's trying to earn his right in her view. Probably to them, they don't feel important enough to get her attention, so they're either at this point don't care anymore, as what the daughter is, and then the husband almost feels like he's kind of in his own right rebelling against her, trying to get her to acknowledge him.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's doing with these other, which I think is going to actually cause problems for her.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Oh,
we
that's a good
saw
point.
that he invited people that were heavy on the emperor's favor,
Mm-hmm.
which is good if you don't realize he's evil.
Yeah.
So
if you're not trying to lead the rebellion to take him down, it's totally okay to have those people in your house. But if you are, not a good idea. So that's a good point that could really lead to some really big issues later on down the road.
so for her having a family, which is a great cover, but also great for a politician.
Yeah.
But ignoring them is gonna, which we can already see that in this episode, is gonna cause future problems for her down the road because she hasn't paid attention to them.
I know the that aspect will be really cool to see. Luthen's shop we got to go back into for a second, and mostly all I was looking at were those holocrons because they were on like prime example right there in the background.
See them a lot better.
Yeah.
And then we also got a look of some more of those stones from Indiana Jones.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw those.
Yeah, I saw the stones.
We talked about, they looked more like vaults than holocrons because of how big they are.
Yeah, they were super huge, and they didn't have the right, like, they weren't lit up. So I was like, it's almost either they're empty or...
Well, they can't be real because Palpatine, he basically destroyed most of the Jedi with holocrons, and then he also took all the Sith that he could find. So
that's why I said they don't look like holocrons. They look like vaults.
Well, they could just be some kind of replica, maybe.
That's why they're not out on display.
Or they're empty.
They can't be real because, like I said, they wouldn't be there. Palpatine would have raided his shop a long time ago. There's no way he could have hit him.
I guess if there's nothing important on it, Palpatine might not care, but...
Well, or if they're empty.
Or if they're
vaults and they're empty, then they don't serve any purpose. They're just useless relics.
Yeah, it's a lot of questions, but I think it's more just to kind of just like, hey, this guy's got money and connections. I mean, it could show that everything in the shop could be fakes.
Yeah.
Considering that the stones referencing those temples and that we talked about, he shouldn't have access to those because those should still be there because we see a lot of the representation later in Rebels. So I don't know. Having a Keldor mask is kind of messed up.
Yeah.
So maybe he has a lot of fake stuff, which is really common in our world.
That kind of ties back into the idea that rich people want stuff that other cultures.
Yeah.
They don't care if it's antique or not. They just want some like, oh, look, I have this from this culture.
It's also a common practice in money laundering.
Yep.
Which is, he's probably using it as a shop to money launder to
100%.
Oh, Rebels. Yeah, right.
So, I mean, to a front, to rich people, that just looks like a great, way to show off money, but also it's mostly fakes, which, like I said, it does happen a lot. We get a lot of these places in real life that sell sort of artifacts that aren't real. The fact that he has the same stones frozen in carbonate from Indiana Jones and then unfrozen could be, maybe that's a good example. They're just fakes.
Yeah, true. Just moving them around, selling them wherever he can to make money for the rebellion. He doesn't care. Worst comes to worst, he just leaves and joins the rebellion, and no one's going to see him again ever anyway.
Yeah.
I had a thought on the Calicori from last week. So how we thought it might be like ancient. What if it's modern? And those are the only kind of parts that they can get currently because they can't have access to all the other stuff. They have access to metal because like down ships, trash parts, anything like that.
It could be that. It could be that they were a metal working family. Who knows? But or like with what Mike said, it's fake.
Yeah.
It could be just a complete fake that
a good replica.
To a non-Twilight, he could sell them easily, but to a Twilight, they're probably like, these aren't real.
Right. Yeah, the Twi'leks would be like, I'm not buying that. And then a normal human would be like, oh, yes, I use it as a centerpiece on my table. I went to Ryloth once. I loved it.
But they're like, fake.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I really enjoyed this one. I think, I don't know why Andor wasn't trusted. Like, at the same time, I get it with a rebel cell and stuff like that. Like, you don't know who you can trust.
Yeah.
But it's like, Luthen himself. Luthen brought this dude in himself, and...
They may not trust Luthen. And they may not know Luthen's involved. They don't know he's involved, actually.
Only the girl does.
It's the one guy, and, he may be the guy that's going to betray him.
Yeah.
I saw somebody when I was watching a review of this episode. Somebody compared it to the Matrix, and a lot of the characters. There's a similar guy from the Matrix. Can't think of his name. That does the exact same thing with
Oh
Neo.
yeah, he just wants a steak and the girl in the red dress.
So he, and he distrusts Neo the whole time. You have the young kid. You have the old mentor that's not very forthcoming.
Yeah.
And then you have the woman that's kind of the love interest, and then he changes his name. He gets, it's a different. He's thrown in, but he's kind of trying to, he drink. Even they even like did a comparison of him drinking that nasty crap. So, but we also get a mention of 2 tattoos.
Yes, the Crate Head clan, which no idea. I'm imagining Tatooinean.
I don't know if that's it has something to do with prisons, because they make reference to the prison. I think the Crate Head, the first one, because it's a barcode and has numbers, I think that's a prison issued tattoo.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
But I think the other one by the hand is an organization tattoo. It has maybe something to do with the Empire, or
and that's what it was called, right? The hand, or the
by the hand.
By the hand, because yeah, I haven't heard about them. The only ones I've heard of lately were like Path of the Open Palm, or like Path of the Way of the Force, stuff like that. Not that.
I think by the hand has to do either something with the Empire, or with some kind of gang.
Yeah.
Prison gang. As neat it is, I don't know. Some people are trying to compare it to the Emperor's Hand. I think that's a bit stretch.
Oh yeah. This guy was never in the Empire. No, definitely not.
So I think that's a huge stretch. I think by the hand, it has to, because the reason I say it's either Empire or prison, because that's a lot of Cassian's connections.
Right.
I mean, it could be a separatist organization, because he did have some connections with the separatists, so it could be that. We probably will never find out what the connection is, to be honest.
Oh, I don't, and that's one of the things I really enjoy about this, that I was talking about doing the watch party over on the Dyad in the Force podcast. I was talking to Chaco and Pep about it, how it's just like, it's amazing how lived in this world feels, because they're not afraid to just drop random species names or events and never tell you what it is or what happened.
I don't think we've hardly had too many set designs where there's so much stuff packed in every scene.
Yeah.
You look, there's lived in everything. There's food, there's trash. I mean, heck, we saw, like I mentioned in the earlier episode when the Empire was taken over, and last episode there was trash and stuff all over the consoles. There's food wrappers. We don't hardly ever see that. And I guess we don't really get the chance.
Right.
So we get to see a lot more authentic way of, I mean,
yes.
when we saw the kitchen, we saw there's like appliances up top. That's old coffee maker. We see, and even at the camp, we see some of the tents. We see some of the stuff. We even see Cassian's belongings laid out.
Yep.
So I saw Imperial credits and the blaster he stole from the corporate officer that can't recall the name, but just like the axe forgets, he recalls. And the tree remembers. The officer still is obsessed with Cassian because he kept his hologram.
This honestly, this series is starting to become one of my favorites.
A lot,
for not just world building, but people feeling like they live in the world.
Yes.
Like what you were saying. Like it feels like we're just in a camera, little bubble, watching everything going on. We don't need to know the context. I just want to hear like some mention of something from like Ryloth. We heard one little mention of Ryloth that made me happy.
This is really showing you do not need a lightsaber.
No.
Well, speaking of camera, by the way, we see a camera. It's an old Polaroid camera that's being used as a traditional. It's like an old school way of star
Wayfinder thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he said it was like a star path thing.
Yeah.
He's talking about, and then he talks about how the old technology, and he has this whole like idea about using old technology to kind of rebel.
Yeah.
And he has this whole mantra, which is whole setting him up to die.
Oh, that kid,
he's gonna die some great. I think all of them are gonna die.
Well, it's because he's so hopeful too, and like I really feel like he's force attuned.
Oh, definitely.
The way he
acts.
He
even said it in the first time we met him.
I never call it.
I'll rewatch it, but
I don't think so. But yeah, no, it's. I don't think a lot of them are gonna make it out of this alive.
I think Cassian is, and that's it. And it's going to be
what
drives him.
And we see some of the officer, that's the lieutenant, that's kind of helping them out, and you see him actually do things that are helpful, but he kind of lucks out into it. Like the guy's like, "Hey, we want to go watch the stars."
Yeah. Well, and I love that. Like that's a legitimate human moment. Mm-hmm. Like, sir, can I speak plainly? And he's like, plainly and quickly. And he's like, we just worked so hard. We really want to see this show, this beautiful thing.
That's the whole point of like being stationed here is like you get to see the whole show. You get to see like every 3 or 4 years, I think they said.
Yeah, it's like.
So they don't want to see it, but that's also beneficial because that means less people are going to be in the facility. Right. So he's like, I shouldn't do it because I'm an Imperial officer. I got to be a jerk, but.
And I really enjoyed that scene because of a camera. So the way the camera angle is done and the camera lens and everything, it gives that like old effect to it to tie it more into the original trilogy.
The blurs. And,
how it blurs like halfway down.
And again, the costume design is phenomenal to still give it that 70s vibe. Like the way everyone has their hair, their mustaches, they've got that Rogue One 70s vibe down.
It looks so authentic. But then it cuts to something super clear. So anytime it's like with the Empire, it's that really grainy, like kind of just old look.
Although perfect. The scene that took me out of this one the most was just as someone who's been around sheep and goats long enough in my life, when that TIE fighter rips across that stream right next to those goats and they didn't all just have a heart attack and die. Sucked out of the environment for a second.
They should have had them all like flop over. Like
because like even if they're not fainting goats, a noise that loud next to a goat is going to give it a fucking heart attack.
Unless the only thing that would excuse that is if it happens constantly, which they don't act like it.
They patrol. Yeah, they patrol way around, but not that. That dude buzzed them on purpose just to be funny.
Yeah, that was realistic because that happens in real life.
Yeah, so, a bored pilot.
it's like they're like, they shouldn't be patrolling right now, and then all of a sudden he just buzzes down, and then he buzzes the dam as well.
Yep.
So if you're gonna be a pilot on a planet like that. Somehow
you're gonna do it. Like, what else are you doing? I really enjoyed that one.
I'll say I am surprised because I believe most TIE fighter pilots can't pilot that well to be able to do that.
Which I was expecting him later.
Yeah, that was a good pilot. He's a good pilot.
So we might actually see the pilot. I mean, I said I believe typical TIE pilots aren't that well where they can buzz that low and not crash, especially in mountains because that's a mountainous area.
Oh yeah. I mean, he dives into a valley and comes back out.
Maybe we'll see him is the one that chases after, the only one that can keep up with them running away. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully right. But that's what I enjoy about this as well, is with this series, there are so many of these cool, like, every person can be the ultimate, like, villain because you don't have to go up against a Jedi. It's just normal people.
Yeah, we don't know when we had the build up, but because of the plan, anything can go awry. We actually see the cargo that they're trying to steal.
Yeah.
And the other good thing we were talking about the discussion on the dam. You get to see that Imperial man. I don't know what his role was, but he's very human.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about, man, it sucks. They're gonna get rid of this beautiful planet. They're gonna turn into an airstrip.
Right, but I understand, why it would help the Empire.
He wants to see the stars and everything. So it shows that everyone's there just to be jerks. That they're normal people in the Empire. That they're there for, like I said, a lot of people, what they hear, they think the Empire is the good guys. The misunderstanding from just because the altered news and
propaganda.
Well, yeah, because these people don't have the look into what just happened with all the Jedi, and they just have the propaganda that the Jedi are bad. Yeah. And so nothing really changed in their lives except, the Empire's now.
Because even with the Jedi Order being as massive as it was throughout a lot of history, there were a lot of people who had never seen a Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, it's a whole galaxy. That's a lot of space.
When the only news you're getting is probably government funded.
Yeah.
Government controlled. That's what you're gonna believe. I mean, that you see that in history in Europe, where the church controlled the news and the education. So it's heavily belief on religion, and it controlled everything. It controlled wars. It controlled the countries. So the fact that it's the same idea, as people that, if they're gonna, you get your news from the Empire, you're gonna probably believe the Empire until the Empire shows up, and then you're like, maybe I shouldn't trust everything they have to say since they probably killed everyone or destroyed things or a quote unquote peaceful occupation.
Right. Yeah, and back to like the rebellious side of it.
First name
Huh?
First name of the rebellion. First name.
Oh well, yeah. This is the first time, so we're really seeing like the rebellion itself named, because as they're all taking like shots by the fire, they're like, for the rebellion.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
We see which just mentioned, we heard several planets mentioned by the agents again, the Imperial agents.
Yeah,
The
a
officers,
lot of
the
mentioning.
intelligence officers. They mentioned Hesnian Prime.
Yes, which is
again.
the big system, right? The Hesnian Prime is the one that
What's
gets blown up in.
Yeah, it's the New Republic homeworld.
Yeah.
The like the capital after the Civil War that gets established and then gets blown up. And then we hear Kessel mentioned, which is, I mean, a lot of people should have heard Kessel by now. It's in two
It's
movies.
in Solo. It's in. I mean, the Kessel Run is been mentioned since A New Hope.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's mentioned New Hope, and it's also mentioned because C-3PO talks about they don't want to be sent to the spice mines on Kessel, so it's known for its spice mines,
which are slave operated like entirely.
Jakku are at this moment mentioned is kind of odd since there shouldn't be too much Imperial presence right now.
Yeah.
Because Jakku, everybody should know if you've seen the newer movies that's where Rey was at. It's also famous for it's the final battle of the Galactic Civil War, and also the final place for the Operation Cinder.
Yep, which it's where the Empire is pretty much officially defeated.
Well, that's where you kind of see that's why the whole battle's there in the first place, because that's where the whole idea of Operation Cinder, where there's actually supposed to be a bomb on the planet to kill all the rest of the Empire. Didn't happen because, if you play Battlefront 2, you'll see why.
The storyline is really awesome. I highly recommend it.
You'll find out why, what happened to a lot of the Empire through that. And it kind of sets up for the remaining Empire that turned into the First Order. You see that, and that's all part of Operation Cinder that didn't go fully into place.
And it's still really awesome to hear them mentioning all this stuff, but to me it is also a thing though where it's like, and it's not in a bad way, they just had me so on the edge of my seat to finally see the mission start that when it doesn't in this episode, I'm still just like, I'm just so amped.
They mentioned Thunder twice in this episode, which is also another planet from Battlefront 2. It's actually a level. Originally, it was an old Legends planet that a lot of like Darth Vader had his ship made there.
Oh yeah.
But they changed it. It wasn't made there anymore, and it ends up being, it's just a big shipyard. And it was also mentioned by Luthen later. He also mentions Fondor.
Sorry. Something I feel like they're gonna do is like casually introduce other characters through this, with this way that they're doing, with like the casual little name drops. They're like, like Thrawn is doing this thing, and then he like shows up in like 3 episodes later.
Name drops in this show ever.
Right, and that's the crazy thing. They've replaced the hardcore fan service of flashbacks, Jedi, and stuff like that with just awesome Easter eggs, fleshing stuff out.
Who do you think is on the transporter?
Oh, the engineer.
Who's the engineer?
I mean, it doesn't have to be someone special.
They're setting it up to be,
they talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, they're say it's an engineer from Coruscant.
Yeah.
Which I think there was confusion about the origin of him. So he's coming from Coruscant. He's a big Imperial engineer. We don't even. I guess the reason he's coming is because he's setting up the new base that they're gonna build over.
Yeah, the new air base.
So he's got to be someone at least semi-important, if not important.
I could see it being Orson Krennic. That would probably be the one I would see the best because he's from the Corps of Engineers.
Yeah.
Galen Erso. Really, it could be Galen Erso, but that'd be weird because Galen's on, like, when you read the books, Galen is entirely about
right now.
But he's entirely about power supply and production. That's his whole thing.
He shouldn't be involved unless this planet has some kind of hidden thing involved with
kyber crystals,
Death Star and stuff like that. He shouldn't have any purpose there. But
either him or Krennic. I mean, it could be. It would probably be like either like some minor Moff looking over a planet who uses an engineer, but this is an engineer from Coruscant.
To Rogue One, this could be a cool connection to Rogue One, but other than that, I don't.
I'm gonna laugh though if they're doing all this setup, because they're really like, oh, the engineer, and then like they just show the transport in the background and kind of like give this ominous little like dun dun music thing. What if it's just nobody?
It's nobody.
The door opens and we're like, who the fuck is this guy?
And that could be. I hope they do that, because again, why does it need to be someone cool?
Right. Well, the cool thing, if it could be like Krennic, he could have a couple of the Imperial K2 droids with him, so that's where we could meet the future assistant, the future droid that we're going to get in Rogue One.
And I mean, that could be the whole thing. The engineer that could just be some nobody, but K2SO comes with that nobody engineer.
Which ends up probably throwing, because he's a pretty good fighter, which we see in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Can end up, being, a wrench in their plans, because they didn't expect a
droid,
a battle droid in that stature, and then somehow they knock it out, and they're like,
now what do we do with it?
Somehow end up with it. Yeah. Like, what do we do? And then he, sticks his old droids,
that'd be awesome. Yeah. That'd be a really awesome way to do that.
I doubt they'll do it that way, but that's how I would do it.
Right. That's actually a really awesome way that I had not thought of to introduce K2SO and why he's so friendly with Andor. That's actually really good. I hope the next episode is the heist. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be, like, they set up to literally like the night before. So I'm pretty sure the next episode is going to be entirely the heist, and I'm really excited to see where that's all going to go. Yeah. It could end horribly. It could go pretty well. Either way, it's definitely going to, there's something's got to happen to push Andor to have more resolve to focus on the rebellion. To not just be a mercenary about money.
I'm sure this will help, and I'm sure there's got to be something. I think it's going to be a combination of bonding with these people and striving to, because he doesn't really he never really likes the Empire, but he just never got pushed over the edge. I think it's gonna be a combination of this and also the planet he had been residing, because you can see the slow occupation of the Empire. So something's gonna push that over edge, and he's gonna probably either lose the woman that he had a connection to, or his current mother.
The lady who adopted him. That's the one I think would probably end up getting killed or something.
Either that or just the whole planet.
That is a good point, though. Yeah, it will have to end up being. I mean, because the Empire's got to be his enemy, so the Empire is going to have to do something bad.
Yeah. So it could be anywhere from a Star Destroyer showing up and just lasering the planet, or So someone's going to send him over edge, and we're probably going to see it.
And then we also just got a new poster for Tales of the Jedi. It has me so excited. The coming of Andor is exciting because we're now 5 episodes deep, and it's really, really bubbling up a lot of anticipation in a good way. It's really creating ambiance for this show. And then there's Tales of the Jedi, which Tales of the Jedi is more or less, they were just like, no, Andor is not going to be about Jedi and flashbacks and fan service. But don't worry, Tales of the Jedi is nothing but the people you love and the people you want to see and the people you want to hear about. Yeah, it's Ahsoka, Dooku, Windu.
There's so much things they're going to set in stone with Tales of the Jedi that we either have very little of or wasn't canonized before this. So we're going to see a lot of answers, basically.
Whereas in the Andor series, like we've been talking about, like with Kyle Katarn's pistol, they're canonizing tiny things in Andor and building this world, whereas Tales of the Jedi is going to be canonizing huge things and just reminding us of the world we already know about.
Well, they're focusing on two characters that are very important. Two different parts of the Clone Wars, really,
and opposite ends.
Because Dooku's more of heavy on the Clone Wars and early Clone Wars, and then you get Ahsoka late Clone Wars to post Clone Wars.
Yeah, and really the only thing they have in common is their views of the Jedi Order once they both leave.
They're similar, but both left differently. Whereas Dooku kind of joined the dark side.
Right. And it's a good thing that Dooku and Ahsoka don't really like meet a lot and conversate, because it could go one of the ways. Like I could see Ahsoka using what she's went through and be like, no, Dooku, why would you turn to the dark side though? And bring him back. But what would probably happen is Dooku would have just turned Ahsoka to the dark side. His like kind of dark side, because like we don't see him with Sith eyes very often, and he doesn't go full evil. He's always calculating, but he'll zap the hell out of you.
He starts to commit a little bit near the end, and I think that's kind of out of desperation.
And the corruption.
And there's also some to do with the involvement of Yoda. He gets a little over the edge when he fights Yoda.
His old master brings back a lot of emotions.
And to prove him wrong in a way too.
Yeah. I think this Tales of the Jedi is going to be crazy, especially Ahsoka's story though. Like the scene where Anakin is training her so hard against those clones. And then we've talked about this before. The Jedi during the Clone Wars aren't actually Jedi anymore. Those are like warriors. They are not taught Jedi doctrines. They are shown Jedi doctrines and taught war.
Well, they're basically monks that were turned into knights.
Yeah.
Or monks turned into samurai, whichever you want, whichever.
Right. They went from normal monks to Templar.
Yeah, to soldiers that fight with a code.
Yeah.
Instead of peaceful people practicing in the Force.
Right.
That's the interesting thing is, honestly, it feels like, and you get it a little bit with the High Republic, what I understand, because they start getting a little warring with that, and in the Old Republic, where it's the whole idea about the Jedi kind of, asked the Force for help in a way, but it almost gets to a point in the Clone Wars and some of these where they get heavy in the war, where they start to use the Force, which is what the Sith does.
Yeah.
So they kind of almost forget who they are, and honestly, the Sith are winning either way.
Yeah.
So,
but hey, that kind of goes in perfectly to a quick little announcement I wanted to make. I know sadly none of my other lovely co-hosts here have gotten into the High Republic as much as I have just yet, but I did finish The Path of Deceit, the first book that came out for Phase 2 of the High Republic, set 150 years before Phase 1. As Mike was talking about, yes, at the end of Phase 1, we're getting to see the Jedi really come into this grandiose sense of empowerment as they conquer the whole galaxy, more or less, and really becoming puppets and working under the Republic instead of with the Republic and for the people. Phase 1 is, of course, way before that, so we're getting to see much more Jedi that are out there just trying to do good. But boy, does Phase 2 have awesome story already. And this next week, the 12th of October, Phase 2 High Republic Issue 1 comic will launch. I'll definitely be doing reviews of that. I already have the review filmed for Path of Deceit. It will be on the channel, hopefully, or this weekend.
So my understanding is the second phase, I looked a little bit, is big about the Jedi that are sent out to explore the galaxy.
Yes, the Pathfinders.
Yeah.
Okay. Pathfinders and Wayseekers.
So that's like a heavy focus. So they go. The Outer Rim.
Phase 2 is going to be entirely about the Jedi pretty much going to the Outer Rim for the first time and meeting the people and how the people clash with the ideas of the Republic and the Jedi. This very first book, it's pretty much the Jedi versus the Path of the Open Hand. The Path of the Open Hand believes that the Force should be free from all people and that no one's allowed to use it. So even the Jedi to them are evil. Now, of course, that's
interesting.
Yeah, and it's a really good book, and it gets a little wibbly wobbly and crazy. And of course, what a surprise! The chick behind everything might be a little sketchy. So I highly recommend Path of Deceit. The audiobook is awesome. The book itself is so good. Phase 2 is going to be stellar, and it's going to give me a lot of things to really go off about and have a really fun time talking about. Because like everything's so different in the design too, which is again where Andor is doing amazing, giving us that very simple, every man, every person, every woman kind of design like this. And then, the original movies give us this really grandiose adventure and the story of the hero with Jedi, and then we get the High Republic, which is more refined and more, like Renaissance period, whereas the Imperial and like Phantom Menace period of Star Wars is almost like Industrial Revolution. This is the High Republic is more art and is more based around living the most frivolous and just absolutely gaudy and out of the way life you can do, and just going nuts and just having a good time.
Yeah, I find it interesting how I wonder how I wonder if Yoda might be the change on how, I know he's a lot in the High Republic. I wonder
Yeah,
if
well,
he's
there's a few other. I mean, Yariel Poof is still a Jedi High Council member in the High Republic, but of course Yoda's going to be around even during the Phase 2 part of this, whereas
I
the
was
other
wondering
ones
if
will have been
he
dead or not
kind
even
of
born
changes
yet.
the dogma of Jedi, because you see a clear difference between the High
Mm-hmm.
Republic Jedi and then the uh, later Republic Jedi.
Yeah,
Whereas the High Republic Jedi are very, all their clothes are very, they have capes. They don't have the cloaks to hide their outfit. Less monk look. They have the capes that go on the shoulder have embossed gold
oh yeah,
designs.
they have
A
gold
lot
on
of
their
whites.
tunics. They're wearing a lot of white and like bright colors.
Whereas you get in the
Yeah.
later Republic, the Jedi have more browns and
Mm-hmm.
tans, more muted colors, and like I said, they wore more cloaks and hoods to kind of hide,
Yeah,
and not
So
necessarily
that
hide,
to
but
me is because of their involvement with the Republic, because they get basically paid to be what's it, enforcers for them, kind of in a way.
yeah.
So that's where their downfall starts.
Well, yeah, but we're talking about like their change in like clothing.
Right. That's where I think most of it starts, is going to be that. I don't think Yoda has anything to do with that.
I just thought
I
was
do.
just wondering if it
I could see him
changes the
100%.
doc.
It's not
He's
the-
been with it for so long, though. He wouldn't be a catalyst.
Okay. When you look at Yoda, he doesn't wear the same robes as every other Jedi in the High Republic. He wears very plain, simple robes.
High Republic, he had white. He had the white and the gold, and I'm gonna pull it back up, but he did not have the simple monk robe shit.
I don't think the idea of being a warrior necessarily changed you to dress that way. I think it's somewhere I wonder if they addressed it in the High Republic, where there's a change in dogma of like
It's
necessarily
still gold and it's got white. Yeah,
forgetting.
that fits for him.
Because if they were running just more warrior-like, they would be more just like Anakin, where it's a lot
Yeah.
of leathers. I guess Anakin dresses more warrior-like compared to the rest of the Jedi, who's more of the whole idea of a monk of leaving your possessions type thing. You
Right.
see a lot more of that with the later Jedi in the
But there's
Republic.
obviously something that happens with, but you have all these like Elzar Mann and these really crazy High Republic Jedi who are very ostentatious and very flirtatious and very
He's also
boisterous.
already established to be old. He's wearing very much similar to what everybody
Yeah,
else
he's wearing
is.
kind of gold and white. His stuff is, to me, it's way more simple than everybody else's.
But he's also already established to be an elder.
And he's just a very simple guy. So he's very, very, very simple. But I mean, I still think, honestly, yes, I think Yoda's going to have something to do with the change, because he's the one who fights the dogma so hard. He's the one who pushes so crazy heavy on not allowing certain ideology within the Jedi Order. There's something's going to have to happen. We don't know how Phase 1 is fully going to end. We don't know if Phase 3 is going to be the actual like end of High Republic era into current Republic era, or if it's going to go back even farther. But what we do know is that something has to happen. I know at the end of Phase 1, Marchion Ro has control of the entire Outer Rim, and the Jedi have to go into hiding because they have the Leveler and the Nameless, which are consuming them and killing them left and right. So like it's almost like this. Maybe it's this moment of fear leading to a self-isolationism kind of thing, where they have to like really look at themselves. Maybe that's going to be the thing that is the catalyst, the tipping point to kill the High Republic. That,
or maybe they just got too into themselves that they made themselves weaker.
Yeah.
And so maybe Yoda was like, "Hey, maybe they're too concerned." Because I haven't read. Are the High Republic Jedi? Are they more into relationships or anything, or they have any extra connections? Or I just don't know if there was.
They talk about it, but they're still very big in the idea of, I would say the High Republic Jedi are more of the mindset of, no, we're supposed to love, you're just not supposed to be attached. So it's the same thing. Like but it's like they lose that a bit because they don't even talk to Anakin about that. Whereas no, yeah, these High Republic Jedi, all of the masters are talking to their Padawans like, oh no, you will feel love. You're going to feel emotions and lust and love. You just can't be attached to it. You have to push through it for the betterment of the Force.
It just feels like there's some kind of change, and I wonder what will cause. I don't know. Maybe if Yoda will see that was their downfall, and then he kind of rewrite, or him and a group of the council that are close to Yoda that think that, and they kind of restructure the Jedi.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? I could definitely see that, though. I could really see that happening.
Are they still writing for Phase 1, or is Phase 1 finished?
Phase 1 is completely finished. Phase 2 started with the Path of Deceit dropping. Then we have the Age of or Song of Convergence. The Battle of Jeddah is going to be an awesome one.
The Drangir. Are those in Phase 2 or Phase 1?
They are only so far in Phase 1, which I imagine they're only going to be in Phase 1 because that's when they get woken up. But they could have also been in Phase 2 and just simply like, this is when they get put to sleep. But that'd be awesome to see because it's actually the Sith that put the Drangir to sleep through a great ritual.
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. He just doesn't let go. True words, Pep.
Yeah. I mean, he wouldn't have listened, but yeah.
He wouldn't have listened to anybody about that. Now when it comes,
he doesn't listen ever.
I mean, yeah. Unless it's like go attack. If they're like, the only thing Anakin listens to are like, how many people can I take down? Which was so crazy because like it's really awesome watching his change. Yeah. In one of the recent comics, the Obi-Wan comic, the last one, or one of the last, I think issue 4, Obi-Wan is actually remembering going on a mission with Anakin where they were told to assassinate someone, and Anakin is blown away by the idea that they're going to ask a Jedi to be an assassin. He's like, that's not what we do. We're supposed to go in and apprehend them and explain to them why what they did is wrong and change their ideas. Now, of course, by the end of the comic, Anakin totally kills him. Like, immediately muscle memory, just lightsaber to the chest, dead. So it's like, bro, it's just what you do, okay? But again, these Jedi during the Clone Wars are not being taught the way that, like, they're being taught the same, but when you're surrounded by this much war, the teachings are just not going to stick that well. You're taking younglings and they're like, all right, guys, now we're going to talk about harmony and peace, but then the Republic's going to send you out into a battlefield.
Yeah. Well, you're going to lead a regiment of clone soldiers and, go to war. So, we teach you as a kid to be peaceful and monk-like, but you're going to be a knight that leads an army. So,
yeah.
And you also you see that with Ahsoka, that you see that even Padawans have rank somewhat. So even they are involved in war if they have a knight that is, which at this point a lot of them are. So
right.
You see they have I say again, that's got to be well, you get a little bit of that from the High Republic, but some of it drops because there was some of the apprehension you see in Episode 1 of leading the clones. But it's I don't know if that was planned by Palpatine, but I'm sure he definitely went with it after that, because
and that's the funny thing about I also recently just saw a few people talking about, I think it was Chaco just talking about it, how like the 2017 comic had a thing where Palpatine has this like image where he's over Shmi's body putting stuff into her womb, and everyone's like, oh, Palpatine's his father. And it was like, no, Palpatine lies about everything. The dark side lies about everything. So you could ask Palpatine if he had a part in it, and he'd be like, yes, I've been planning that from the very beginning. But really it's like, nah, he just got lucky, which is most of Palpatine. He just got really lucky, and since there's the rule of 2, he doesn't have that many people to compete with.
And he doesn't follow the rule of 2 very well.
That whole thing is like it's weird because like the Inquisitors weren't Sith because of the ideology, because there are multiple dark side users throughout the universe. There are whole cults devoted to the dark side, but they're not Sith because they are not specifically taught a very specific way. To me, I was like, bro, I'm pretty sure To me, I would have to honestly say, I can't believe I just spaced on her. Reva. Reva is more of a Sith than a lot of the dark side users we've seen in more like movie era Star Wars. She was using the dark side. She was using the Inquisitorium. She was using literally everyone to get what she wanted and kill Vader.
Well, we've also seen, because he's saying this Vader's vision of his fears. We've seen the Force use visions before that aren't necessarily truth,
right?
But they are like a direct truth, but they kind of also
or an emotional truth.
They have a meaning behind them. I mean, heck, we see that and with Luke and the cave with where he sees himself as Vader. I mean, he's not Vader, but there's a kind of an emotional representation.
Yeah.
So it could be, Palpatine's involved, almost kind of creating him into a perfect apprentice for him, which he does heavy-handedly in Episode 3 and a little bit in Episode 2. About his kind of involvement in his career path. So,
I've loved all the fan theories and all the other like what ifs where if Vader had kept Padme and had Anakin and had Luke and Leia, Palpatine would have immediately tried to weasel into Luke and Leia's minds to get them to become more powerful, to then kill his father to become the next apprentice. That's kind of another thing that the Rule of Two starts to really lack in it. For me,
and I'll say if you get into that too, is getting into more theories. I don't how Anakin is emotional with things. I think once he met his children, I don't think he would have stayed with the Empire. I don't think he would have been Darth Vader anymore.
Oh, really?
So I think Palpatine probably would have separated him from his children, because I think once he met his daughter, like as a bit, I think he would have started he would have became a fatherly figure. I don't see him.
Oh yeah, his kids would have brought him a lot of peace and harmony. But I mean, that's why I've always loved like the Episode 3 video game at the end where you can do the alternate ending where you just kill Obi-Wan and then you kill Palpatine and he scoops Padme up to take her off. But I could also see that ending in like a lot of fighting. Padme would not have been down for that. She was not down for the Imperial idea. She did not want to force anyone to do anything.
She already didn't like the way he was turning.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's just blinded. Even she was blinded by love.
Yeah.
Saw the vision as Palpatine had groomed Anakin since birth. Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's hard to tell how many fingers Palpatine had in, pies. He could have very well had, made sure that, well, I don't know. I feel like Tatooine's a weird world because the Hutts are very much like anyone can come here. Just don't try to touch the bureaucracy because that's how we make money.
I don't know. I mean, that's a stretch to say he was done by the womb, but I don't. They always change canon.
Well, and in a sense too, it could have been Anakin thinking like, "Oh, well, I have been manipulated since birth to become this person." Being a slave, being mistreated my whole life, which leads to so much anger and resentment. So the dark side, or I should say the lack of nurturing, has definitely always been a thing in Anakin's life. He had his mother, who was a nurturing, loving person, but the world outside of that house with his mother was evil and mean.
Well, the big involvement he could have easily gotten in is when we get into, at least when he embraces the council, because Obi-Wan says how he could be the chosen one. So that could easily gone to Palpatine's ears and related, that relayed that way, and then that's when he starts getting involved with him.
Tatooine is a dark side nexus. Makes sense. Everything there wants to kill you. It's a horrible landscape. Maybe the ancient Sand people did a really crazy dark side ritual to try and become really powerful to take over their Rakatan overlords. Since the Rakatans were mentioned in Andor, I'm just gonna hope and believe that the Rakatans enslaved the ancient Tuskens like they did in the expanded universe, and maybe the Tuskens did like some crazy evil ritual to try and kill all the Rakatans, and maybe that's how the Rakatans got cut off from the Force, but it also then turned Tatooine into a huge desert hellscape. I'm liking this headcanon. I'm gonna have to write this out. That's one of the things of the Andor, like we talked about, is doing just so crazy well. It's giving us tiny little blurbs of huge background stuff. Whereas, Tales of the Jedi and all these movies and things, they are huge, massive, grandiose ideas with little tiny Easter eggs.
It's dropping and small little name drops that a lot of them have big implications. I said there were Cottons, even planet names are big drops.
Yeah.
So it's setting up for either future, just speculation or more actual written canon that we should maybe see.
Right. I'm excited for all the things we're going to be getting, but Andor has honestly really taken over. Not High Republic, because I put High Republic on a different scale because it's books and comics, so it's much more living in my head, whereas Andor lives in front of my eyes. But Andor, it's taking a cake. It's grabbing it and running off with it. It's doing so well, in my opinion. Legends of Lehon, they describe Tatooine as a lush planet, but to drive back invaders, they collapse all the time. Okay, I'll have to look into that. Legend of Lehon. All right. Thank you, Pep. I know, because that'd be really awesome. I love the background story of the Tuskens and Jawas, especially the old EU thing that they were once the exact same species and then just kind of separated and evolved apart. Legend of Lehon. But no, so I'm really looking forward to the next episode for episode 6 of Andor, because we're finally gonna get the heist. How bad is this gonna go? But also Wednesday is also gonna be so freaking crazy because I get episode 1 or issue 1 High Republic comic. I'm so stoked to do that review. I actually will also have a review of Path of Deceit coming out this weekend as well. I'm probably going to drop my Obi-Wan comic series on Saturday, and then the Path of Deceit I'll drop Sunday.
Yeah, we have, is it 7 episodes or is it 6 episodes? We should have 2 more.
Oh, 12.
Episodes? Is it out of Andor?
Yeah, I think it's 12.
Yeah, there's a lot in this season.
Oh, I thought there wasn't very many.
No, this is gonna have 12 in it, which means we have a lot of time. There's a lot of stuff for them to set up.
But yeah, and then we should have at the end of this month, Tales of the Jedi. So we'll do a lot about. We should on our Halloween episode, we'll probably talk about some of the Tales of the Jedi, since that'll be recently dropped.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look into this even better. I'm down a deep hole now, Pep.
It's an audiobook I've never listened to.
Oh, the one he's talking about, Legends Alone. Yeah, it looks like the Choose Your Destiny and Escape Mission, written by Gavin Scott. I'll have to listen to that just for that part, where a Bomar monk tells the legend at Jabba's palace. That's awesome. That's really cool. That's one of the things I love so much about Star Wars, though, and why I look so forward to them making more and more things canon and giving us more and more of these awesome little story bits. Because parts like that, let's canonize what happened to Tatooine. Do a lot of people care? I don't know, but I know I really do. I know I certainly care.
Yeah, that's like you said. That's the great thing about we're getting so much content. We're getting something completely different with Andor. We're getting to see stuff we've never seen before in Star Wars, which is just general life.
Yes, it feels so lived in, and that means so much to me to really feel that lived in sensation.
You get to see different. We see early Rebellion. We get to see early Empire. We get to see different antagonists with the corporate, which I'm disappointed we probably won't see too much of them now, since they've.
You think he's going to join the Empire?
I don't know. I'm sure he's going to do something, because he hasn't given up on Cassian. So.
Yeah, he definitely hasn't given up on Cassian. He's going to follow. That dude's going to follow him like a bad outbreak.
Yeah, he basically is going to probably blame everything on him. Yeah, it's going to be another forgot the Inquisitor with Obi-Wan's going to be another situation like that.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be like Darth Vader
Succession.
hunting. Yeah, Darth Vader and Obi.
Yeah.
Where even the Grand Inquisitor was like, "Stop it, stop it."
I mean, it was if they had foresight, they could tell that stopping Obi-Wan was actually a good thing. You should do that.
Yeah, they should have really cared a lot more.
Because if we lost Obi-Wan, would have probably still have had the Death Star.
Yeah.
Because
Luke might have just joined the dark side or been killed.
Or just lived on Tatooine as a farmer.
Yeah. I love the From a Certain Point of View book and how it talks about the R5 unit and how it like helped R2 get chosen.
I like that he's back helping in the new Mandalorian season.
Yeah, that was really cool to see him there too.
I doubt he's going to be a Jedi in this. So.
Yeah, he's not going to be Force sensitive. That was such an awesome little story when you told me to go through it. I was like, okay, that's actually a really fun story. Super Force sensitive little droid.
All those the series of From a Certain Point of View, there's a lot of fun tales from that.
Mm-hmm.
Not canon really, but
yeah,
really.
There's a lot of stuff that I need them to talk more about because, like, again, but now that they've given us Rakatan and we have Revan. Okay, so like, are we connecting all the dots or what are we leaving out? Because I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people are afraid of when they start using these older characters in these names is like, but don't ruin it. But at the same time, it's like, they're not saying don't ruin the character. They're saying don't ruin it for me. Don't ruin my experience that I already had in this world with these characters.
I'm just glad they're acknowledging it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like this. What I hope to see from it is to see more of it, see more of the Old Republic. I mean, it's such a good. I mean, not having any like actual like series or anything on the High Republic or the Old Republic, there's so much content that I've said this many times. I would like to move on from the Civil War era.
Yeah.
And there's so much cool stuff from those two sections of Star Wars. I mean, there's even more.
High Republic would be awesome, and I mean, of course, we are getting the Acolyte, so that'll be that kind of that bit of the High Republic in a show. But yeah, Old Republic would be phenomenal to see. I would love to see the Old Republic because, again, there are so many Sith, there are so many Jedi, so many Force users, so many smugglers. Not only Force users, again, you could do another Andor series based Old Republic. There are so many more smugglers and pirates and mercenaries when the entire galaxy is at a war like this. Versus, to me, because when you have the separatist systems using droids, they don't need to hire that many people, so there's not as much demand. And we get more Mandalorians. Like, everything is lush in the Old Republic because it's so old and, ancient.
And I love the style. I love the Old Republic trooper design. I'm not a big fan of the Old Republic, at least from the original game. I wasn't a huge fan of the Sith trooper design with the metallic armor.
Oh, the chrome armor.
Yeah, it looked kind of. I mean, it's a product of its time, so I don't blame.
Right. It's definitely a product of its time, and it was meant to just be this sleek, ominous, and cool. Yeah, and that's one thing that they've not been ever afraid of doing. I like that they're unabashedly okay with taking things that we've seen delivered through either animation, video game, TV show, however, and changing it to something that will flow and work correctly in live action. I still am always going to say the Grand Inquisitor could have looked a little bit better, in my opinion. They could have just deepened the creases in his head, make them look a little bit more Utapowan. Just a personal nitpick and nothing crazy, but I'm okay with him doing that and changing things. I mean, they listened. They made Ahsoka's Leku a little bit longer in the Ahsoka series, so. But I also understand that, you got to do like flips and choreography and acrobats, and I wouldn't want giant head snakes flopping around either.
Yeah, it just stinks that because it was already established.
Yes, and people fall in love with it. People fall deeply in love with those characters.
and we had so many cool designs of her when she was older, and she has the long leku. So uh, it was really disappointed to see that it was short again, like she was like a child from the Clone Wars.
Right.
But I mean, besides that, the character was great.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we can see a lot more of Ahsoka,
Oh yeah.
and she's
I mean, again, Tales of the
she's a cool
Jedi.
fan
We're gonna
favorite.
get some more right there, so that's gonna be awesome. And it's
Yeah,
animated again, so if we do
yeah.
see an older Ahsoka, she should be back to tall Montrells, longer Leku.
We'll also see shorter Leku. 'Cause
Yeah, she should be
she's
real
a
young.
baby.
We're gonna see
Yeah.
like nothing, zero, just little nubbies. Yep, little nubbins. I really enjoy too how they're kind of showing like, hey, a baby can still use force powers. It's this is something that I've heard a lot of people talking about lately too, and explaining it. It's midichlorians and all that stuff. Force powers does not equal force strength. It just equals ease of connectivity to the force.
Well, it's the you mentioned that ruins the childhood in the comments, and
Mm,
that's something I've always I say a lot is that people because they have that idea of their childhood was magical, but they don't realize how little stuff that we had as a child was, um, compared to now.
yeah,
At least for me, when I was a child, there wasn't hardly anything Star Wars besides the core movies and some of the old books and the
yeah,
comics, and then some of the old games, but not as much as we have now.
yep.
Uh,
And but
we have
people
so
will
much
always
time.
take for granted something that they have an abundance of.
Yeah,
And because it sucks, it's like, no, what are you talking about? Why are you guys all angry because there's no
we had
explosions and like there's no
we had a lot
lightsabers
more
or
written material back then, but
yeah.
it was so all over the place that it was so hard to connect everything.
Well, and some of
That
that written material was
yeah,
not for kids. Like a lot of those
yeah.
older EU authors are wordy as all hell because they're just trying to make the next Dune.
Well, and like I said, they're all over the place. There's a point
Mm-hmm.
where that it was the Wild West and with writing that
Yeah.
it was so easy to get a license from LucasArts, and they just wrote whatever. We saw a lot of crazy ideas and designs. So it was a lot of people are upset with the purge of canon, but in a lot of instances it was a good thing because
Yeah.
they had to be some kind of control over the story, otherwise there wasn't any.
Right.
Um, and so to say that your childhood's ruined, no one ruined your childhood. No one ruined your idea of things. If anything, they're making it a lot better for the future children,
Yeah.
which is important to get more people in Star Wars.
But those people that
Fact that we
complain
love.
about it ruining their personal ideology of how the show should go, they don't give a damn about next generations or
Well,
children.
the fact that most of them, their perception of the idea of something was
Mm-hmm.
either just embellished for the time that wasn't as good as you thought, or you know there was situational that what was going on at the time. A lot of people like the original Battlefront, well, Battlefront 2, because that's the first one they played. I like the
Yeah.
original Battlefront 1 because that's the one I played a lot. But was it a good it was a good game at its time, but I mean compared to now,
Yeah.
I
Oh no, I
guess
get it.
technically we don't have
Hey,
too many good
I
Star Wars games like
love
that.
I loved Street Sharks with a burning passion as a child. I have gone back to try and rewatch an episode of Street Sharks, and let me tell you, that show is god awful. Terrible. I don't know how I liked it as a kid, but I loved it. I had all the figures, but also I wasn't like, I didn't have nuance. I didn't know as much about the world and about story writing and stuff. So, big burly shark on roller skate, go burr. Make serotonin. Yay.
Yeah. Well, the fact that a lot of the older names are very generic, giving new names to races, cleaning up things that need to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
And we all have our own attachments, but um, yeah, I don't think anything's ruined.
Oh
The
no.
only thing that I hated about the loss of canon is the loss of the Old Republic, but they're bringing it back.
Oh
They're
yeah.
acknowledging it, so it's not gone. It's still there. The games are still there. You haven't lost your childhood. You could go back and rewatch, replay, reread.
Mm-hmm.
It's not thrown out. But yeah, I mean, you're not the only fan I think still the content that we're getting is such high level of content that we've never received before. Like I said, I was a kid, I would have loved to get these shows that we have now.
Yeah.
I was excited that we got a new Star Wars movie. It was Episode 1.
Right.
That I got to actually witness a Star Wars movie in person. That's the one thing I hated because when I was born, I didn't get to see the theater release of the Star Wars movies. So to get a release of the Star Wars movie was the best, and now it's considered the worst Star Wars movie. So,
everyone, like, if they don't hate Phantom Menace, they hate Attack of the Clones. And if they don't hate either of those two, then they probably hate one of the sequels. That's it. Although I've met some people who don't like Empire Strikes Back, and then I'm just like, but like, that's actually like critically acclaimed and fans love it. But at the same time, some people don't like things just because other people do.
Yeah, it's just the hate. The new stuff is, a lot of people don't like Rebels. I think Rebels is fantastic. I think it's just going into that point of that lens, how you expect what Star Wars should be from your point of view, because you've only seen, a movie or the video games from only one lens.
Yeah.
And then you see it from another lens, like, oh, that's too childish, or that's, Star Wars is for everyone. If you don't, you can't just, if you want to do it on your own island, but don't expect everyone to live like you do.
Yeah.
And that's a sad way to look at it. There's so much out there that I don't even partake in, that I wish I had the time to, like the High Republic. I wish I could partake more of it. A lot of these books, I can't engross. I don't have the personal time to engross myself, but I don't think they're terrible. I think the High Republic sounds awesome. I wish I could sit and read and listen to all those novels and embrace it. So it's I don't have a problem with any of it.
Well, that's like me and like
new
Resistance.
Ideas, new content.
Never been a big Resistance guy. Just not my style of writing. It's definitely a bit more on the humor side and a little bit more fun. Some episodes are entertaining, but it's just not for me. But at the same time, I know people who love it, and I'm just happy that something brings them that level of joy. And that's the way I look about it for Star Wars. If you love The Lord of the Rings and you enjoy the new Amazon Prime show, awesome. There's just more happiness for you there. I love Star Wars so much that whatever comes out, I just gonna take it, I'm gonna put it in my eye face, and I'm gonna be like, more Star Wars. At least, if nothing else, I got more Star Wars.
The good thing is, like you mentioned, Resistance, it wasn't really written for people like us.
Right, exactly.
It was meant for a younger crowd, and that's a good thing. I mean, if you want to hate on the Resistance, we will have less younger crowd. And if you want to connect everything, we get so much more resurgence of fans, and with Disney involvement, that we get we get a lot more toys.
Yep.
We get 2 theme parks that we never had, that I hate, that I wish they had when I was younger.
Yeah.
I went to Disney World when I was a kid. I would have loved that.
Now I have to spend my own money to go to Galaxy's Edge, and that's not as cool.
So to have access to so much awesome things, I mean, Galaxy's Edge is a dream world for me. It's almost literally entering in Star Wars, which is something I would never have gotten to do. And hopefully I'll get to do. But even the idea of it's awesome.
By the way, guys, hey, start making sure to like and share and comment and subscribe and all that fun stuff. Let's blow the channel up so you can get me and Mike to Galaxy's Edge, so we can go hang out with the California creators and just have a really fun time. All right, let's get on that.
Yeah, that would be that's something I could have always dreamed of.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's actually possible is great. And to explore the fandoms, I don't want to be the only Star Wars fan. I don't want to be the only one talking to Star Wars, to be the social the
social
outcast to that I love Star Wars, that I have a Star Wars sticker on my car.
Yep.
I don't want to be the only one that goes, oh,
I don't want to go back to being bullied like I was in early grades of middle school and stuff, or like elementary school and stuff. Or even after episode 1 and 2 came out, it still wasn't that big. It really blew up after episode 3.
Well, that was the one thing I loved that was one of the greatest things when I was heavily involved in a lot of the costuming is going, and when we did our events with the Mandalorian Mercs and
Mm-hmm.
the 501st, is the looks of the children's faces when they saw a Star Wars character. Is just it's nothing you can beat that.
Yeah.
And you think it was like, hey, this obscure character, there's no way anybody's gonna recognize it, and then like all these kids do. They know who you are. They want to take so many pictures with you. They
Mm-hmm.
want to meet you. It's awesome, and to share that with somebody is great. And yeah, you can't not can't ignore it.
Right.
And if you do hate on it, you're just killing any kind of growth, which is not a bad thing. As you can see, we got literally 2 theme parks.
Right. And I mean, and that's our whole thing. That's what we're all about, is hope, which is what Star Wars is about. And that's, if there's nothing else to take away from this podcast, this little conversation we're having here is the best. Don't kill someone else's hope. We all have our own light. We all have our own power within us, and it's ours to use, and it's ours to put forth in the way we seem fit. Don't yuck somebody's yum. You're basically a buzzkill.
Yeah.
That's all you are. If you come into things just wanting to find a problem, you will, and no one else will like you.
So we've changed this conversation a lot, but yeah. Uh, it's
hate watching. It is marvelous. Like what Diet in the Force is saying. These people nowadays hate watch it and have to let people know how much they hate it.
I don't think I've ever hate watch anything.
I've never hate watched anything.
I don't want to watch it.
Right, exactly. Why waste my time?
The only thing I've watched that I didn't think I'd like was the Rings of Power series. I don't think I'd like that. I've actually enjoyed several parts of it.
Yeah.
I don't like, that's getting off topic, but I don't like the canonity with it. But as a show on its own, it's not a bad show.
Right.
I'm not hating it. So yeah, if I don't like it, I'm not gonna watch it. I think the idea of watching something just so you can either mock somebody or to talk down on something,
right?
Enjoy the fact that we have something to watch. That's the one thing I'm saying, because we didn't have this kind of stuff before.
I remember, like even after episode 3, there still weren't. There were coloring books and some video games, and that was like
big drought.
Yeah,
we had the Clone
Wars.
The
world went, because 9/11 happens, and then the world immediately dives back into police thrillers and war TV and war movies.
We had the Clone Wars shorts for a little bit, and then we finally got the Clone Wars
series, which was awesome.
But that was kind of what we had for a while.
And a lot of people hated the hell out of it when it first started, because like, it's Cartoon Network. And then
I didn't like it at the beginning, because the funniest thing is I didn't like it at the beginning was literally because of Ahsoka.
And then
at the time I didn't realize that was the whole purpose of the writing.
Yeah.
I still can't believe, I laugh at myself that when the Clone Wars first came out, I was mad because they got rid of the original Clone Wars shorts, but I thought those were cool, and to giving us a show, the Clone Wars, and having this annoying character that ends up being one of the most favorited characters.
Right. But then, like you said, that was literally the writing. She was supposed to be annoying at first. She's a child.
If the Clone Wars came out now, I think a lot of people would hate it.
Yeah.
Honestly, the first season, if they dropped it right now on Disney, they'd be mad that, why are we getting a cartoon? Why are we getting this annoying character? You're going to give Anakin an apprentice? That makes no sense.
Right.
Why is she so annoying? Her acting is terrible. All this stuff. Heck, if we dropped episode 1 now, a lot of people would be upset.
Yes, very, 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 very much so. But to me, like really, even with content creation like this, the best way to blow up is hate. If you can make people, if you say something that people don't like, or just be edgy for the sake of edginess, you will get so many more views. You'll get so much more reach. Hate watching, hate reporting, and like hate streaming. People do it all the time. People will sit down and watch something they hate to tear it apart on the internet for a video. It's mind-boggling. But we're not going to end on a bad note. We're going to end this on a very good note, and that good note is very simply, we got Star Wars. Andor is amazing. High Republic Phase 2 is launching and is going at full steam. It's been amazing so far. Tales of the Jedi, Acolyte,
and many more shows. Yeah,
Mando,
Mandalorian.
Yep.
Yeah, there's so many shows in the lineup. I can't even remember them all. Yeah, Bad Batch.
There's so much coming out. Skeleton Crew. I almost always forget about Skeleton Crew.
Yep.
So there's just so much really awesome stuff coming out. There's gonna be something for all of you. Get ready, get excited, and let's continue to be a positive community that we can be and build up and lift up. So, thank you guys so much for joining the House Holocrons podcast. Technical difficulties aside, this was fun and a really great time. I will have the audio versions up on Audible and Spotify and Anchor soon. And then I will also be sure to get out those reviews, Obi-Wan comic book review and Path of Deceit book review, High Republic. So thank you guys so much again for stopping by. And as always, may the Force serve you well.
And may the Force be with you.
All right.